All right. Okay, hopefully everybody can see good. So I think I've met most of you here. I'm Dr. Stephen Lowe. I'm one of the cardiologists at Rush Copley Medical Center in Aurora, and the founder of this wonderful nonprofit organization called Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. And we really have a passion, a mission to help transform not only our healthcare system more towards lifestyle medicine and prevention, but in order to do so, we also have to help transform our food system. And as you know, it's a major, daunting task because our culture in America is not very much so plant-based oriented or even lifestyle oriented, and our food system is not aligned with this, and as well as our healthcare systems really don't get paid to help prevent disease. And we are, sorry about that, we're finding that there are not only so many passionate people out in the community that understand the power of lifestyle medicine and plant-based nutrition to prevent disease, but there's a lot of physicians and healthcare providers as well that are frustrated by our current paradigm in medicine, pushing pills and procedures. And a lot of physicians want to do the right thing for their patients. A lot of physicians really want to get out there and practice lifestyle medicine, but it's really hard in our current situation because doctors don't get paid well for it. We're not really reimbursed for it. So as you guys are here today at our first annual holiday potluck, enjoying this food, understanding that, wow, you can eat wonderful, tasty food that's filling and satisfying, well-being, nourishing, and nutritious for you, helping to prevent and reverse chronic diseases. Many of you thinking here are just wondering, why isn't all of America doing this? Why isn't our people jumping on board with this? Not only is this good for our health, good for the environment, good for so many different reasons, we really need to be the change. We need to spread this message and be out there. So Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, pbnm.org, hopefully is going to be one of the pieces of the puzzle to help transform our system to where we want it to be. One that focuses on health and prevention using good plant-based nutrition. So the mission of our organization is to organize a combined effort of healthcare providers and community members to promote lifestyle changes to improve the health of America, fighting our current epidemic of chronic diseases with whole food, plant-based nutrition. So again, taking the physicians and the healthcare providers that are passionate about this message, combining them with the community members that also understand this because of all those wonderful documentaries that are out there and books that are out there that really expose our healthcare system. So many people are passionate about this. We need to bring everybody together to be the change, because the only way a change is going to happen is a grassroots movement. We need to demand the change in our system, or else the change is simply just not going to happen. And this is why that we have to do this. If you look at this picture here, you'll see this big yellow circle is the people who die from heart and circulatory disorders, which are predominantly preventable. And to compare that to war and other things like murder and suicide, not to say that these things aren't important to prevent, but just look at the impact we can have with lifestyle medicine. A majority of cancers are preventable through diet, lifestyle changes, diabetes deaths, a lot of digestive disorders and brain disorders. We can prevent this. This is the perspective. This is the huge impact that we can have if we could just shift our system more towards plant-based diet, lifestyle medicine. We really need to be the change. Heart disease in America, they say heart disease has been the #1 cause of death for 100 years in a row, since 1918, when the Spanish flu was the #1 killer. Every year since then, you'll see right here, heart disease has been the #1 killer in America, despite it being nearly 100% preventable. Just as many people died last year from heart disease than the number of American soldiers that died in all wars in American history combined ever. Just 1 year of heart disease deaths. That is a huge number of people. We really need to do something and be more aggressive at prevention through diet and lifestyle changes. And a whole food plant-based diet, as you know, is the absolute most powerful way to do this. Heart disease is nearly 100% preventable and even potentially reversible. Why is it, if the science is so powerful, showing that we can prevent this many deaths, why is there such a disconnect between what the science shows and the actual practice of medicine? I'll give you 2 words why. One is our culture. American culture is just not into healthy eating. It's just the way we are. Burgers, fries, hot dogs, cookies, cake, and ice cream. That's the new American culture. It's a standard American diet. But the second reason is money. Simply put, there's no money in healthy people. And that's just the way our system is set up. And there's a multi-trillion-dollar food system that we're fighting against. It's really a big struggle. So, you know, we do live in a capitalistic society. There's no money in healthy people. If you prevent diseases, then you're not going to need, you know, our nearly $4 trillion healthcare system can't thrive on that. But there's no money in dead people either. So we don't want people to die, right? So people stay alive, but require lots of pills, surgeries, and procedures. And that's the way that our healthcare system financially thrives. That's just the way that it is. And it's not like our healthcare systems want this to happen. They don't. They want what's right for their patients, but they have to do what they can get paid for. They have to. And we want that paradigm to shift to getting paid for prevention. So if you look at Medicare, it's going to be broke by 2026. This is an unsustainable path that we see, the spending going up and up and up. In America, we spend about $10,200 per person compared to the UK where it's only $4,200 per person on healthcare spending. We tower over all these other countries how much we spend on healthcare by quite a wide margin. And as you look as a percentage of the gross domestic product in America's economy, the United States towers over every other country. Nearly 20% of the American economy is healthcare spending, right? And when we know that 80% of what we spend on healthcare are for preventable diseases related to diet and lifestyle, that means, doing the math quickly, about 16% of the American economy is spent on healthcare for preventable diseases related to diet and lifestyle. That's a huge part of our economy. You would think, with all this money that we're spending on healthcare in America, that we'd be a healthy country, right? We should be. We are not. According to the World Health Organization, the United States has the lowest life expectancy of all industrialized nations in the future. And it's not because of the lack of new pills, not because of the lack of new lasers and gadgets and surgeries or procedures. It's because of the American diet and lifestyle and the lack of emphasis of improving diet and lifestyle changes within our culture and our healthcare system. So this is really what we are setting forward to try to change as an organization. America is sick, and I don't blame the individual person for the American being sick. I really don't blame the individual person. It is the result of 5 different things. Number 1, our human instincts, of course, right? We love sugar, salt, and fat. That's not our fault. It's just the way we have evolved. Unfortunately, our food industry has really made food so hyper-palatable, tasting so good with sugar, salt, and fat that we can't resist it. But that's our human instincts, not our fault. Our culture, as we talked about, you know, from the day you turn 1, a kid gets a cake put in front of them and they're smashing up the icing and they're addicted to sugar. And then Halloween comes by and it's candy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's the way it is for kids, and that's the way our culture is. Is that the American person's individual fault? No, it's not. In our food industry, doesn't feed us healthy foods. They market to us the unhealthy foods, and they really just don't do a good job of marketing and giving us, supplying us good, healthy, wholesome food. You know, you watch TV commercials, all you see is fast food and processed food. Where are the broccoli commercials? Where are the apple commercials? We wish more were out there. But the food industry, not only do they market their unhealthy foods to us, but they fund research to confuse people about what's healthy and what's not healthy. This is horrible. You know, the egg industry studies, the beef industry studies, so many different industries do this, sugar industry, and it's just wrong. It confuses the public. But everybody here in this room is not confused. You got the right message. Evidence-based nutrition really shows whole food, plant-based diet is the way to go. Our government policies, though, are not aligned with this. And this is what's so sad, is that we subsidize foods that cause diseases, and then those subsidies, of course, they come back and they hit us even further because then we have to pay the healthcare bills for all those diseases that our government literally subsidized and caused. So we subsidize corn and soy for livestock feed, which is horrible when we really should not be eating animal-based foods at all. And they subsidize sugar. And they do so many things. Their food pyramids are not necessarily evidence-based. They're very much politically influenced. So really, the government is a part of this problem. It's not the fault of the individual American person. And then, of course, our healthcare system's a part of the problem, too, as we said. We really need to shift our system more towards prevention. You put all this together, and this is why we're having such a major issue. We need to change our system so the food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and the healthcare industries stop profiting from the illness of good American people and start profiting from promoting good health and prevention of disease. That's really what we need to do. So now I'm going to tell you straight out that I lied to you. When I started out, I said, hey, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in America, right? Well, guess what? No, we need to start telling America the truth. Heart disease is not the #1 cause of death in America. According to the Global Burden of Disease Study funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, dietary risks are the #1 cause of premature death in America. Same study, dietary risks are the #1 cause of premature disability in America. So it's about time that we start saying it's not heart disease is the #1 killer. It's the American diet that is the #1 killer. And as we get that message out, that can hopefully help change people's mindsets to understanding the root cause of heart disease and these chronic diseases relates to our diet and other lifestyle factors. So we must focus more on diet and lifestyle to solve this problem. So we really do have two different roads we can go down. We have the road on the right, which is where most Americans are honestly going, where they have pills and pills and pills, and the pills accumulate. It's a cloudy sky. It's not a really healthy road to go down. But if you choose the whole food plant-based diet on the left, it's a nice blue and sunny sky. That's really the path that we need to go, and you literally have those two different roads that you can choose. We need a paradigm shift in medicine, away from the pills and towards the plants, right? Because our current healthcare system, we have what we call the acute care model. You get a quick 15-minute appointment with your doctor. Your doctor gets paid for seeing more and more patients. That's what they get paid for. So they don't have time to go into what are you eating, are you exercising, how else can we really help you change your habits. And they don't get paid at all for getting their patients healthy, for losing weight, for improving blood pressure and diabetes control. So therefore, lifestyle is not adequately discussed in our current healthcare system. It's just not, because of the way that it's set up. The new system that we really want is a system where you get a long appointment with your physician. And it's an integrative approach. You get to see a psychologist about food addiction, stress reduction. You get to see nutritionists and exercise specialists. And doctors would not get paid for productivity for as many patients that they see. They get paid to get their patients healthy. That's what we should do. And the way to get your patients healthy is diet and lifestyle. Plant-based diets, exercise, don't smoke cigarettes. Lifestyle needs to be the main focus of our newly envisioned healthcare system. So, what I like to tell people, and a lot of people in this audience here tonight really knows that this is the truth about nutrition. There's only three food groups that we need to think about when we're talking to other people about what we should be eating. Food group #1 is processed foods. We should be eating 0 processed foods, right? And you need to understand, within processed foods, we include refined carbohydrates like white flour, white sugar, white rice, and all forms of oil, including olive oil, coconut oil, pure fat, highly processed. It is not a health food, despite what many people think. The second category of food is animal-based foods, right? We don't need to eat any animal-based foods to live at all. 0. None. And that's where cholesterol and saturated fat comes from. So really, we should dramatically reduce, hopefully eliminate, the consumption of all animal-based foods. And the third category is whole plant foods, which is where today at this potluck you got 100% of your calories from whole, unprocessed, plant-based foods, free of oil. And wasn't it great? It was great. This is the food that reverses diabetes, reverses heart disease, prevents chronic diseases, and it tastes great. And everybody here knows this. This is what we need to spread out to the rest of the country to let other people understand how wonderful it is and how powerful it is to prevent and reverse chronic diseases. So, the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, as you know, says straight out that 100% plant-based diets are nutritionally adequate for all stages of life, including pregnancy, childhood, infancy, adolescence, older adulthoods, athletes. You get all the nutrients you need from plants. And if you get all the nutrients that you need from plants, why should you consume anything else? You don't need to consume animal products where you're going to get cholesterol and saturated fat, hormones, and so many other things that are not healthy for you, causing so many harms. so much harm to the animals and the environment. You don't need to, zero. You can get all your nutrients on a plant-based diet and help prevent and reverse diseases. So that's really what we should be doing. But despite us being able to get 100% of calories and all of our nutrients from plant-based foods, this is what America really eats. 12% of America's calories come from unprocessed plant-based foods. 12%. When it really should be as close to 100% as possible. That is the sad state of nutrition in America. 63% of calories come from refined oils, grains, and sugars. 63%, and 25% come from animal-based foods. We need to take the green portion of this pie graph and change it to as close to 100% as we possibly can. So this is what we envision. On the left of this picture here is what the USDA says. It is the My Plate. Fruits and vegetables, grains, and protein, which of course they say can include animal protein, and drink 3 servings of dairy a day. No way. The American College of Lifestyle Medicine is on the right. Drink only water. Your protein needs to come from legumes. That's where it needs to be. And this is what we need to really educate the public on. So the closer you get towards a whole food plant-based diet, the healthier you're going to be. It is a spectrum for sure. Pretty much everybody here is 100% whole food plant-based for the most part. There's some people still in the middle of their journey, and we're here to support everybody along their way. But the closer you get towards a 100% whole food plant-based diet, the healthier you're going to end up being in general. So we can reverse the Earth, the planet Earth's #1 killer, with a whole food plant-based diet. Science is very strong with this. The stress test before and after, just weeks after, reversed the defect, the decrease in blood flow to the heart muscle, and we can see how much the coronary arteries can open up when people consume a whole food plant-based diet. It's a dramatic thing. We need to really spread this message. Because in medicine, when you graduate medical school, we all have to raise our right hand and give the Hippocratic oath, right? First, do no harm is what we're taught to say. However, do we also know that Hippocrates said, let the food be thy medicine, and let the medicine be thy food? It is our duty as healthcare providers, as physicians, to do what's best for our patients, and first do no harm. And we are doing harm every day in our clinical practice if we don't advocate to all of our patients, if we don't inform them about the power of 100% whole food plant-based diets to prevent and reverse chronic diseases. So this is a message that more and more healthcare providers are getting. There's many conferences, plant-based nutrition conferences, where thousands of healthcare providers come to learn about plant-based nutrition. But we need to keep spreading it and keep spreading it because the evidence is clear, the science is clear. We just need to get that message out. We need to shift our system away from pills and towards plants. We need to shift our system away from the pharmacy with the PH to the pharmacy with an F. And that's what we're doing here at Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. We realize it has to be a grassroots effort. It needs to come from the people because politicians aren't going to make the change. The food industry are not going to make the change unless the people demand the change. Vote with your dollar and let's do the change. We can do it. Everybody here in this room understands the power of this. Now we need to all get together, go out and be active and spread this message for the health of America, for the health of our environment, for the health of everything. We really need to spread this message out. So how is it that we're going to be doing this at pbmm.org? What is our strategy? So let's go through that a little bit. So what we want to do is start with group meetings. So we already have some groups that are going, including one in Schaumburg, which is going to be right here in this room, in the Chicagoland area. We're starting in Chicago and hope to spread this nationally. So now, these group meetings, we want to have as many as possible. So starting with Chicago, we have, hopefully starting in January, established groups that are going to be in Warrenville, Downers Grove, multiple ones in Aurora, Plainfield. We have Tinley Park. We have Oak Lawn, led by Dr. Reynes. We have some in Loretto Hospital in Chicago. Emma Rodriguez here is going to lead one in Chicago as well. We have our Schaumburg group and all the way up in Rockford as well. And we're really hoping to get about 50 groups meeting on a monthly basis. We have a set curriculum. We're here, we have a whole structure set up to support group leaders, to get like-minded individuals together, people in different areas of their journey, people who are just interested about plant-based diets, people who need to lose weight, somebody whose doctor said, hey, listen, you're diabetic, maybe a plant-based diet's a good idea. Why don't you show up to this group? They're going to have a little potluck and talk about diabetes or talk about whatever. We need the group support there. So one of our big things that we're doing with our organization is setting up these group meetings, and a lot of this is going to be run by healthcare providers and physicians, but not all these groups will be. However, healthcare providers and physicians will be actively involved in these groups to make sure that we educate people and we give them the support that they need, not just so that they understand the power of plant-based diets, but it's confusing. It's a change and it's a challenge, and a lot of people are afraid to change their diet. You need not be afraid, and we need to make sure we take that fear out of it and get people in the right direction. So these group meetings is a big part of what we're going to be doing at PBNM. So besides the group meetings, the next thing is actually teaching people how to do it, right? Because certainly there's one thing to know about the power of plant-based diets. You could read books like How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. You can watch a great documentary like Forks Over Knives, but how do you actually go out and cook a whole food plant-based meal that tastes awesome, that satisfies you? We've lost that skill as a culture. We really, really have just simply lost that skill. And we need to bring that skill back. It is a desperate thing that we must do. So through the help of Sherry Strabo, Karen Kornak, and our culinary committee at PBNM, we have developed 22 cooking courses, which we plan on rolling out all throughout the Chicagoland area, all the way from the basics to how to cook pizzas and burgers and chili, appetizers, sushi making, I mean all these different types of food. We have 22 phenomenal classes, including cooking classes for kids, in order to try to really bring the skill back into our culture as to how we can cook this food and make it taste great. These are going to be reduced costs, low cost, and even further reduced costs for SNAP participants so that we could really get this message out. And so we're going to actually have our first PBNM certified chef immersion, hopefully sometime in early 2019. So anybody interested, who has a lot of cooking skills, just even amateurs cooking at home, who really is into cooking whole food, plant-based, no oil, if you'd like to lead cooking courses, we're here to support you. Come in and get certified by our organization to be a PBNM certified chef, and we will help get you a venue to do your courses. We will get you the curriculum, the recipes, and we'll market for you so you can get people from the public to show up and actually learn how to do this. So this is one of the ways that we really, really want to spread this out. I believe we already have somewhere around 30 to 40 people signed up to be PBNM certified chefs. So if anybody's interested, please contact us and email us. So then the third thing that we're going to do is provide immersions. So an immersion is a full-day event where people learn about a specific topic, and they're there all day just to learn about whatever it is: heart disease, diabetes, weight loss. We have immersions set up for autoimmune disorders and athletes and kids, brain health. And so we already successfully held a really wonderful immersion for heart disease prevention reversal. We had multiple couples that were there, and it was great. It was a great feedback. There was breakfast, there was lunch, and they prepared a dinner. The food was spectacular. We got to interact with them and really, I think, change some people's lives at these immersions. So these immersions can be small and intimate with 10 couples or so, or we can do these large in a much larger scale. So we really hope to spread these out and make a big difference, because the more lives we impact, the more we spread the message, the better it's going to end up being. So what we really would like to say to everybody here in this audience is not just a big thank you for coming here and supporting this, supporting our organization, understand the message, but you are the change, and we need your help to spread this message. The way that you can be an activist, the way that you can spread this good message is first take control of your own health. We always need to do that first. Learn how to eat whole food, plant-based, no oil yourself. Be healthy. You know, they always say put the face mask on, the oxygen mask on yourself before you help other people get their oxygen mask on. It makes sense. That's what doctors have to do too. Physicians and healthcare providers need to learn evidence-based nutrition, take care of their own health, and once they've learned that and they've taken care of their own health, they're going to be much more effective and more likely to tell their patients and help guide them in the right direction for this. So you are the change. Everybody in this room is the change, and that's the message we want to get out to the American public, is you are the change. We can make the difference, and we must make the difference. So politicians, again, they're going to support the lobbyists, the big agribusiness. Where the money is, money talks. The only way we can change something is by speaking up and demanding the change. We need to be a good example, spread the word. And remember, the one thing that you guys know, after reading all these great evidence-based nutrition books, such as How Not to Die and Eat to Live, and watching these documentaries, is that you all individually have the knowledge and have the power to save other people's lives. You know many loved ones with heart disease, with diabetes, cancers that were preventable. You need to be the change. You need to spread this message. You need to help them understand the power of diet and lifestyle. And it's really hard. It is hard. Many people don't want to hear the message. Lead by example. Get that message out there, and it will change, and we will change our system. So that's the one thing that you know. So through our organization, we are hoping to do big things and spread. In January, we will have our second branch in Tampa Bay, Florida going live, led by Dr. Kaushik Reddy, who is a phenomenal plant-based advocate. And he already has a good 20 people lined up for his board of directors, and so many ideas and so many creative things he'd like to do. We're going to be going live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin soon. We'll also have a branch in Knoxville, and I've been contacted by so many other cities. It's just becoming overwhelming, and we have to say, hey, listen, we're trying to master Chicago first. We eventually would like to spread out all throughout the country within the next year or two, but we're taking it a step at a time. So we're going to spread more and more out, and what we'd like to do is, as we continue to fundraise for our organization, through these immersions and cooking courses and some other fundraisers, which I'll talk about in a minute, what we love to do is build a plant-based nutrition institute, a building dedicated to plant-based nutrition. And so this vision is not just a building where people can come and learn and go to lectures, but it could be a place where we could have restaurants, a quick service cafe, we could have a fine dining restaurant, we could have a big auditorium where we do presentations and invite guest speakers and educate the public. We could have a live-in program where people come and live in for 7 days or 14 days and can transform their health, just learning so much about plant-based diets, losing weight, getting off their medications in a short period of time. We could have a marketplace. We could have a fitness center, a garden, teach people how to garden. There are so many different possibilities. Medical clinics for plant-based physicians and psychologists and everybody to help do the whole wellness lifestyle medicine approach, all in one place. There is really no place that exists like this in the country. There are certain places that do have buildings for lifestyle medicine and plant-based nutrition, but nothing as grandiose as what we're envisioning. So our hope is not only to do this, probably starting in Chicago first, where our largest presence is, but eventually, as more and more chapters come on board and we're able to raise more funds and do more, we would love to build one of these institutes in as many major cities in America as possible to support people on their plant-based nutrition journey. So that is ultimately the goal of our organization. And maybe it's a lofty goal, maybe it's a dream, but we're going to do everything we can to make that dream come true. It might take a few years, but with the support of people, what I've realized is our organization being less than 6 months old. We have hundreds of people signed up to be volunteers and signed up for our newsletter, and the word is spreading and spreading and spreading. The support is there. It is there. Now we just need to come together and make all this a reality. And so I am very, very encouraged that we will indeed make this happen. So one of the things that we're going to do in order to fundraise is an event called our Spring into Health 5K Walk and Run. This is April 27th, 2019. Please, everybody, check out springintohealth.org, springintohealth.org. And what we're doing with this is not just, a regular walk 5K. There's a million of those out there. But how can we make this something that's geared towards health, that can be exciting for people, and attract the general public in to learn more about this, while also spreading the plant-based message and fundraising for our organization at the same time. And here's how we're going to do it. You get to walk and run with lifestyle medicine physicians and plant-based physicians. Dr. Joel Kahn is going to be our keynote speaker at our Spring into Health 5K Walk and Run. I'm going to be there, Dr. Ashwani Garg, and we have right now already 14 plant-based physicians and healthcare providers signed up to be there, and hopefully many more to come. And so we are going to offer a whole food plant-based meal after the event. There's going to be presentations from physicians on various health-related topics, cooking demonstrations, food tastings. There's going to be post-race massages and stretches and all that stuff like that, and just everything we can do to spread the message about lifestyle change. So this is going to be a wonderful, fun event. Right in Elk Grove Village, right here by Schaumburg, not too far away. And this is going to be hopefully a powerful way. So I encourage everybody here, even if you're not a runner or walking a 5K, you can walk it in an hour, just take your time, enjoy it. this is going to be a great way to bring the community together while raising funds. And people, when you sign up for this, $25 to sign up. However, you can individually fundraise for our organization if you're interested. Create a fundraising page and share your story, your personal journey right there on the page, and tell people, this is why I think plant-based nutrition is so important. This is what I did. This is how it transformed my health. This is how it changed my life. And now I want to give back. And point people towards your fundraising page to help raise funds for our organization so we can really get out there and spread the message on the power of plant-based nutrition to transform people's health and our healthcare system. So that is our Spring into Health 5K. So we really know that it requires us. We have to do this. And I love this quote so much. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And that's what we're doing. We're going to try our best to change the world, change our system to one where we focus on plant-based diets and prevention of disease, away from pills and procedures, and we can be that change. And pbnm.org, that's what we're here to do. That's our mission, and we appreciate all of your support and all of your help throughout this journey that we're having, coming together as an organization. And I have no doubt that our ambitious goals will become reality because of all the individuals here that are supporting us and all the outcry of support that we've had from the whole nation and so many other physicians. The time is now. America's ready for this. The people are ready, the healthcare system is ready. Now we just need to come together in a combined, unified effort and be the change. So thank you so much all for being here. And I'm going to be around if you have any questions about our organization or about plant-based nutrition or whatever. I'm here to help and in any way we possibly can. So thank you so much for coming. So I'd be happy, people want to get extra food, go for it. And if anybody wants to ask some questions, I'd be happy to take some questions now as well. We have a microphone here for questions. If anybody has a question, if you just raise your hand, we can bring in a microphone and you can ask a question.
Hi, so my school actually has a club and we're working on initiatives right now. And I'm not sure if there's anything to do with this, but I think it kind of does. We're talking about composting food. And I know vegetables and stuff are like much more compostable than animal things. So maybe we could possibly, if we keep in touch, work something out.
Wait, Dr. Long. So I have a question about diabetes type 1. Okay, so is there any studies that show that plant-based diet actually helps?
Yes, so that's a great question. So the question is that diabetes type 1, is there any studies that shows that a plant-based diet helps? And there is good science, good basic science research and clinical science that it helps. Now, of course, what I would say is as you guys may or may not know, type 1 diabetes is the insulin-dependent type of diabetes, way different than type 2. Type 2 is the most common one. When people overconsume calories, can gain weight, you can develop insulin resistance and become a type 2 diabetic. However, type 1, your pancreas just stops making insulin straight out. So you become insulin dependent. So however, when people consume an unhealthy diet and they're a type 1 diabetic, their insulin resistance goes way up and they will require more insulin and be more likely to have uncontrolled blood sugars. And so certainly when somebody eats a plant-based diet in general, their insulin resistance goes down and their insulin requirements go down dramatically, but will it ever go to zero? No, it won't ever go to zero. So, however, there's actually a Dr. Cyrus, and I forget his last name, phenomenal speaker who has a lot of great videos. He's a type 1 diabetic himself. and he's dedicated his life to research on plant-based diets and type 1 diabetes. So I'd encourage anybody who knows type 1 diabetics that are interested in a dietary approach to watch some of his videos and learn from him. I know his first name is Cyrus, C-Y-R-U-S, and I forget his last name. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. He's got some great YouTube videos. Now, the other thing I'd say about type 1 diabetes, though, is perhaps the power of plant-based diets for type 1 diabetes is more in prevention of type 1 diabetes. There's a lot of research talking about a mycobacterium, a type of bacteria that may actually be the immune trigger for our bodies killing our insulin islet cells that create insulin in our pancreas, right? And so this mycobacterium, where is it predominantly in our food supply? Is in dairy products. In dairy products. So dairy products are strongly linked to the immune reaction that can cause type 1 diabetes. So once somebody's already a type 1 diabetic, that's a different deal. But eating plant-based may be able to prevent quite a bit of type 1 diabetes in the first place. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know a couple of people that their kids were diagnosed recently.
Yeah. Yeah, type 1 diabetes in a kid it's a very sad thing. It's hard for kids to deal with, but they cope with it. Jay Cutler, who used to be on the Chicago Bears, is a type 1 diabetic, and he's thrived. And Ron Santo, you guys know, was a type 1 diabetic in the Cubs, and he's thrived. You can do it, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge, and it has a lot of risk to it. But they've come a long way. But the best thing to do is prevent it. So getting dairy out of the kid's diet is a huge thing. It's a huge thing to do. Yeah, no problem. Yes, the next question back over there.
I have a question about protein. How does animal protein stack up against plant? Because I understand people say that animal protein is more complete than plant protein.
That's a great question. So how does animal protein stack up to plant protein is the question. People say that animal protein is more complete. And so the reason they say that is because of what we call the essential amino acids. There's 8 essential amino acids that you must get in your diet that you simply can't make yourself, right? And when you look at the amino acid composition of an animal-based protein, it will have all 8 essential amino acids pretty much in any animal-based food. However, not all plant-based foods have all 8 in large quantities. But there's no question about it, as you guys know, you can get plenty of protein on plant-based diets as long as it's a whole food plant-based, not refined carbohydrates, sugars, and oils, which are low in protein. So basically, you might be able to get more protein and more amino acids from animal-based foods, but that is detrimental to your health. There is plenty of research to show that getting protein from animal-based sources increases cardiovascular disease risk. It boosts insulin-like growth factor 1, which promotes cancer. So you don't want those protein forms. Animal-based protein is very acidic. It has a lot more of these sulfur-containing amino acids. And those amino acids create an acid-like environment in your body, which is not good. It can promote cancer and a lot of chronic diseases. So we want to avoid those animal-based proteins. Actually, the absolute best balance of amino acids come if you eat a variety of plant-based foods. You will not overconsume protein like many Americans do by consuming too many animal-based foods. And if you ever go to a website called Chronometer, you can track what you eat on a plant-based diet for a day or two, and as long as it's whole food plant-based, you'll blow away your amino acid requirements. You get plenty of what you need. And you won't overconsume the more acidic types of amino acids, which cause that acid environment and cause cancer growth within your system. So there's actually plenty of data to show that when people get their protein from plant-based sources, they have lower cardiovascular disease risk and a lower overall mortality. And not only that, but you simply don't need to consume the animal-based proteins to live. A female only needs 45 grams a day of protein, a male only needs 55 grams a day of protein, and as long as you eat adequate calories of unprocessed plant-based foods, you get all the protein that you need, no question about it. There's no case report of a protein deficiency in any medical literature as long as the person ate adequate calories of whole unprocessed plant-based foods. And it makes sense, because if you think about the strongest animals in the world, gorillas, rhinos, buffaloes, elephants, and they're 100% herbivores, as is the strongest man in the world, Patrick Bogomian, and many bodybuilders and pro athletes, which get all their protein from plant-based foods. So read the China study. It's a great book. which talks a lot about protein. And there's another phenomenal book by Dr. Garth Davis, which I've read, I don't know, 5 times over, I think, called Proteinaholic, which really goes into the whole protein thing in detail and explains why the heck it is we have this protein obsession in America. A lot of it's marketing, and a lot of it's just our culture. But read Proteinaholic and the China studies. I know it's a long answer, but it's an important one because so many people ask that question. So it's important to understand that one.
One more?
Sure.
Thank you. Can you address supplements? Vitamin D, vitamin B12? Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are we doing about that?
Sure, absolutely. So the question is, can we address supplements? So when you're on a 100% plant-based diet, you get every single vitamin, mineral, nutrient, macronutrient, micronutrient you need, except for the most part a couple things. One, everybody knows about vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is not made by animals, and it's not made by plants, it's made by bacteria. And yet, a long time ago, if you literally just took 1 cup of water from a pond and you drank it, you would get all your B12 for the day. Well, now our water is filtered and sterilized, and yeah, it's great, so you don't get cholera and all these other bad things, but you don't get your B12 either, right? And we clean our fruits and vegetables so we're not getting the bacterial soil, so we don't get our B12. And so anybody over the age of 50, regardless of their diet, it's recommended to take a B12 supplement. Anybody over the age of 50, regardless of their diet. So whether you're standard American diet or plant-based diet, you should be taking one. However, if you're under the age of 50 and you're on a 100% plant-based diet, certainly it's important to take one as well. Now, you don't need to run out and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to die of a B12 deficiency in a week if I don't eat the animal products, because people have 3 to 5 years of stores of vitamin B12 in their liver. And so, therefore, when you go on a plant-based diet, no rush, but you should be getting a supplement. So it's probably better, and you'll hear different conflicting things from different doctors as to how much B12 you should take. It's probably better to take small amounts daily rather than a big, huge whopping dose once a week. There's a little bit of science that shows that the big whopping doses once a week may increase the risk of certain cancers. So trying to either get vitamin B12 fortified food, so you're getting small amounts every day, or take a small supplement every single day. And then get your B12 levels checked here and there, once a year or so, just to make sure you're doing all right. The other thing is you don't want to take a multivitamin and just kind of overwhelm your system with a bunch of vitamins. You get all the vitamins you need from whole, unprocessed, plant-based foods. It's not natural to take a multivitamin. Now, yeah, people on a standard American diet, if they're eating 12% of their calories from unprocessed plant-based foods, maybe they benefit from a multivitamin because they're not getting their vitamins in their food. But people, when they're eating healthy, whole food, plant-based, you don't need to take a multivitamin. Actually, that can cause some significant harm. So the one other thing to think about is DHA, which is the long-chain omega-3 fatty acids. And so from a heart health perspective, it's pretty clear it's not that big of a deal. You don't need to take fish oil. It doesn't improve cardiovascular mortality, and it is not important at all for the heart. However, for brain health, it might be. And so what a lot of plant-based physicians recommend in regards to long-chain fatty acids, the DHA, the long-chain omega-3s, is to get your DHA levels checked or take an algae-based DHA supplement, one or the other. Now, so a lot of people say, well, Dr. Loam, I use flax seeds every day, or I use chia seeds or hemp seeds, I eat a lot of walnuts. I'm not getting my omega-3s there. Maybe you're getting short-chain omega-3s, ALA, which some people can convert to long-chain DHA very well, but a lot of people can't. And everybody's different. There's a lot of variability. So you might be all right if you take flax seeds and chia seeds and hemp seeds, but if you're not, you might suffer some brain issues. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. So what's recommended is get your DHA levels checked at least once a year to make sure that you're somebody who can convert the omega-3s from chia seeds and hemp seeds and flax seeds, ground flax seeds, of course, to the longer chain DHA omega-3 fatty acids. So either get your levels checked or just take an algae-based supplement, one or the other. Don't just, because a lot of people, when you hear stories of, oh, I went on a plant-based diet and I felt miserable, I'm telling you, it's not because of the lack of dead, decaying flesh in your diet. That's not what it is. It's because you're not doing it right. Everybody can thrive on a 100% plant-based diet if you do it right. And one of the reasons why people fail is they become deficient in DHA because they think they're doing fine with their chia seeds or hemp seeds or flax seeds, but they are somebody who can't convert those short-chain omega-3s to the longer chain DHAs. Therefore, they suffer depression, mood disorders, or other issues. They feel tired and lousy. When all they had to do was take an algae-based omega-3 supplement, and they would be fine. So the vitamin B12 and the omega-3s are the two things to really think about. Maybe a little bit with iodine, maybe a little bit with zinc, but those are much less researched and less of a concern to think about. So, long answer, I'm sorry.
No, very good. Thank you.
What about vitamin D?
Oh, so vitamin D. So vitamin D is not a vitamin. I hate that. It's actually a hormone, but we call it a vitamin. And so vitamin D, of course, is a hormone that you make when you're exposed to the sunlight in your skin. The only natural dietary source of vitamin D is mushrooms if they were grown exposed to the sun. And so in regards to vitamin D, there is a lot of conflicting evidence out there. And if you talk to certain plant-based physicians, and you're going to see some conflict there. Some people don't believe in any vitamin D supplementation whatsoever. But the standard recommendation is if your levels are low, you should take a vitamin D supplement. So it's only if your levels are low is what the standard recommendation is. It's best to get it more naturally, just from actually sun exposure. You know, obviously what they always do is they fortify milk and dairy products with vitamin D because it helps with calcium absorption. And this kind of got us all hooked on this, oh, you need to drink your milk for calcium and all that stuff. And that's really not the case. You know, the best way to do it is just get a good sun exposure, get your levels checked. If you're low, I think most physicians would say take a supplement, but don't just blindlessly take a supplement. Make sure you know what your levels are. So, yeah. Any questions? Any other questions? Yeah.
Can you repeat the app that you mentioned for vegetarians or vegans to check their
Oh yeah,
intake?
so that's chronometer. Chronometer, chronometer. The free version of it, chronometer.com. The free version will give you macronutrients and a little bit of micronutrients, but of course, if you want all the details, you got to pay the fee, and then it'll give you every single amino acids and so many different things. Yeah? Yeah?
No H in chronometer.
No H in chronometer. Oh, chronometer. Thank you. No H in chronometer. So, yeah, it's a good free resource, and you just do it for a couple days. You know, we went to our pediatrician, who's not a plant-based pediatrician. The pediatrician's like, what's going on? I don't know anything about plant-based diets. Is your son getting enough iron? Is your son getting enough this? I just whip out chronometer and say, my son got 400% of iron yesterday. He's doing fine. Don't worry about it. She just looked at it and said, wow, that's pretty cool. And so, it's actually a really good, useful tool. So, yeah.
Hi, are we planning to set up some type of blood test? Because everyone is saying, get your levels checked every 6 months, every year. Most doctors don't know these tests. They're not readily available. They cost a fortune. Insurance don't cover it. How can we get these levels checked?
Well, good question. So a couple things about it. Forget about your doctor. You don't need doctors to get blood levels checked. You just go to directlabs.com or Google search labs online, and you can just go and buy them yourself and go to any Quest diagnostic lab and get your lab done. And they don't cost them a fortune, but it might be $100 to $200 or so. I know a lipid profile is $29, and it does add up if you want to get a whole bunch of things done. So you could actually do it yourself without a doctor's order. But actually, I went out and I got all my labs checked myself, and they were all covered. You just got to put in the right code to get it covered. And the magic code that worked for me, and I hope it works for everybody, there's actually a code that says, on a vegan diet. And so if your doctor just uses the code, on a vegan diet, they'll cover pretty much any type of vitamin level and any lab test. And so I actually went out, what did I get? So I got pretty good insurance, I think. But I had vitamin B12 levels checked, DHA, vitamin D, the typical kidneys, electrolytes, blood counts, lipid profile. And I ended up paying, I think it was like $40 after co-pays and all that stuff for all that stuff. And the only code we use is on a vegan diet. So whatever, it worked. And so I hope it works for all insurance companies, I'm not sure. But that's the code that I tend to use, and nobody's complained. But even if you don't actually use it from an insurance company perspective, you can go online and you can get your own labs done. Now, there are certain websites that try to promote vegan profiles on your blood, and they actually put a bunch of weird things that, oh, check your protein level. Your protein level is not something you need to check if you're on a vegan diet. You don't. But they play into things, and they have their own vegan profiles. You don't. Check your B12 level, check your DHA level, and maybe your vitamin D if you want to. Don't check, you don't need to check your protein levels on a regular basis. You're fine. Don't worry about that. So, yeah.
Can I do housekeeping kind of thing?
Yeah, and so, yeah, go ahead. You want to talk?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you. What we had is, first of all, thank you all for coming. I mean, we expected a good turnout, and you guys came through. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the food as much as we enjoyed your being here and sharing this whole event with us. Oops.
Thank you.
Thank you. Am I
Talking to the microphone.
And just so you guys know, this is Judy Bryan. She's our board secretary. She's the one who did a lot of the planning and everything behind the scenes. So give it
for, hopefully everybody will fill it out, even if you're already receiving our newsletter, because we've been adding more content and more information. But one of the things to bribe you to fill this out is we're going to be making a master list of all of the recipes that were in the food today, and everybody who we have a clear email address for will make sure that you get a copy of all of the different recipes for the food. Yes, yes. Well, I know that we've got good email addresses for a lot of you. Some of you we don't, because sometimes the handwriting is not as legible as a typed handwriting might be, but whatever. But anyway, if you can fill this out. But the other thing for this is, if you're looking for particular support, if you're looking for a way that you want to participate with PPNM, you know, this is a way for us to get that information so you can be added to our database, so that when the classes do begin, you'll know. It'll be a way for you to let us know that, yes, I'd like to be one of the chefs, or yes, I'd like to be one of the group leaders. You know, and I want to know where you are located, so the city that you live in, and if it's Chicago, which area of Chicago you are in. Because we're trying to do a master list that has a map of all of the groups that are going to be gathering, a map of all of the classes that are going to be put on, and then also they have a record of where everybody lives that is looking for help. So we can match the people who are looking for help with the people who are providing it. So if you wouldn't mind, please fill this out, and when you're putting in your email address, just print really, really carefully. Zeros and O's look a lot alike. L's and 1s look a lot alike, so just to bear that in mind when you're filling it out. I've got plenty of pens for people if they need extra pens, and I think there's enough here for everybody to use to fill it out. So thank you very much, and glad you came. Thank you so much.
And truly, what we're looking for in volunteers is simple things, helping us set up for events like this. Our Spring in the House 5K in the spring, we're going to need a lot of volunteers, water stations, things like that, and set up. But anybody who wants to be a group leader in your area, if you want to lead a monthly group, we'll have the curriculum set up and the support for you. We'll get physician support. We'd like to have as many groups as we can. And again, anybody who has the culinary skills and wants to lead cooking classes, we'd love to get you involved as well. And as time goes on, we may find other volunteer opportunities to help get you involved. Because again, we want to be active. We want to spread the word. We want to try to be the change and make a difference. So, any other questions at all?
Big push on CoQ10. What's your thinking on that? Is that all promotion or?
So yeah, I mean CoQ10 is hard. So CoQ10 is an enzyme that your muscles use quite a bit. It's important in many different functions. And again, we're very evidence-based in nutrition. And so we want good, solid evidence and good science before we make a recommendation for anything. And honestly, there's not a lot of good science for or against coenzyme Q10, because who's going to fund it? There's really no funding for these types of things. There's a little bit of science that said in end-stage congestive heart failure patients, you might get some benefit. There was one trial that said that patients who take statins to block the enzyme HMG-CoA reductase, an enzyme in your liver that makes cholesterol. If you take a statin, then that same enzyme that makes cholesterol makes coenzyme Q10. So the statins actually block the production of coenzyme Q10. So maybe taking coenzyme Q10, if you're on a statin, might help naturally replenish the stores of it in your body and help lessen muscle aches, but even that science is a little bit wishy-washy. There's a very interesting video on nutritionfacts.org about coenzyme Q10, And it talked about how our body might actually naturally make it. And it has to do with actually chlorophyll in your system. So chlorophyll, as you consume more plant-based foods, more green leafy vegetables, you're consuming chlorophyll. And if you know what chlorophyll is, it's the green substance in plants that allows the plants to take the sunlight and convert it to energy. Well, what you can do when you eat more green leafy vegetables and plant-based foods, you're consuming the chlorophyll, and light actually penetrates your skin and has similar chemical reactions that helps take ubiquinol to ubiquinone, which is the precursor for HMG-CoA reductase. Meaning, if you eat your green leafy vegetables, go out in the sun, it'll allow your body to make more coenzyme Q10 yourself. So just like plants can use chlorophyll to make energy and certain things, humans actually do as well. That's a very interesting kind of side note on coenzyme Q10. So we don't recommend that people go out and get a coenzyme Q10 supplement. If you're on a statin, maybe there might be some benefit with that, perhaps. However, the best thing to do is eat your greens and go out and get and sunbathe a little bit. You'll make your own for you, right? So, yeah.
Do you know of any CoQ10 that isn't a soft gel?
Do I know of any CoQ10 that is not a soft gel? That I do not know. Now, as far as I've only seen a handful of them as patients bring them in, and I think every single one that I've seen has been a soft gel. So you always wonder about the manufacturing process and what else you're getting in with it. Yeah, and it may be oil-based, absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not aware of checking coenzyme Q10 blood levels. Maybe there's that test available. I've never heard of it being needed or ordered in patients. But, you know, it just makes more sense to eat your greens. And if, you know, it's not something that we routinely have enough science or evidence to support people taking coenzyme Q10 on a regular basis. So.
For those of us who are teachers, is it possible to use this PowerPoint in the classroom? Or you have something else you'd recommend?
No, absolutely. So, so this PowerPoint is actually nowhere near as powerful as some of the other PowerPoints that we have. So there is, in regards to heart disease, I have a whole prevention or reversal heart disease up on YouTube. And we will, what we're actually planning on doing, one thing that I didn't put in our presentation, is our organization's planning on creating a membership for a $20 annual fee. You'll have access to all the different talks that our physicians give, including things on like blood pressure, cholesterol, autoimmune diseases, brain health, and all those PowerPoints will be available for sure. If ever you wanted the slides, just email me. I'd be happy to share the slides with you individually if you're going to be active and give these presentations. But we also want to be able to allow everybody to point back towards our website and watch some of these presentations with a voiceover or whatever. One of the other things that I'm going to be doing, and I'm just going to kind of dabble with and experiment with a little bit, is starting a Facebook Live session once a week, I hope. Do you think that's a good idea? I don't know. Yeah? So basically, if you guys aren't familiar, a Facebook Live session, that person goes live and you're on Facebook and you can ask questions back and forth. So I plan on initially picking a topic and doing a 10 or 20-minute presentation on that topic with a PowerPoint, and then people can ask questions too. So those will be available for people to go back and look and see those presentations as well. The first one's actually this coming Monday. And anybody who wants to check that out, just get on Facebook and look at my page, Dr. Stephen Loam, and you can sign up to be notified when that goes live, Monday, 10 a.m. So. You have a question? So if there's no other questions, I mean, finish off the food, get some dessert, guys. I'll be hanging around.
I have many questions.
Oh, okay. Gabriel here has many questions.
Just one for now. Do you still remember the late Justice Scalia?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So he had a problem with President Obama because in the Obamacare was a kind of prevention package included, and he didn't want anyone to take his French fries from under his, he wanted to eat French fries until he dies, and I think he did. So my question is, for people who are fighting for freedom, who believe in these fundamental principles to live by, plant-based nutrition, whole food plant-based nutrition is not too restrictive, is not pushing them away?
I don't think so. So first of all, what I would say is there's more than 100,000 edible plant species, and it is a spectrum too. So the more plant-based people get, the healthier they're going to be. So for the person who loves their French fries and their fast food, what we need to do is we need to demand the change so that fast food restaurants supply healthy plant-based burgers and get rid of the refined carbohydrates and stop adding all those crazy things to their food. And we can satisfy America's palate without restricting the foods that they love and they enjoy and make it a healthy version. It can be done and people will enjoy it. This needs to move that direction. I hope that answers your question. How do we not let America think that they're being too restricted? So one of the other things is, and this is not ideal for health, and I don't necessarily recommend this, but if you've ever had an Impossible Burger before, they taste like a real burger. And so for those people who say, listen, I don't want to be told what to eat, I need something that tastes good, what I'm used to, those foods can satisfy those individuals. Now, it has coconut oil in it, it's highly processed. Can it contribute to cancer and cardiovascular disease? Maybe, but there's not as much science randomizing people to Impossible Burgers versus bean burgers versus real hamburgers to see who gets heart attacks. So we don't really know. In theory, it's better to eat a whole food plant-based burger than an Impossible Burger, but the people who don't want to change, they don't want their taste preferences to be altered, they don't want their pleasure foods to be taken away from them. The industry is really pushing towards actually making good alternatives that taste phenomenal. And and I still have mixed feelings about this other thing, the clean meat movement that's going on, where they're actually growing meat in laboratories. It's kind of weird. I guess it's better than the way it's being done in factory farms, but as long as they can get the cholesterol out of it, the saturated fat out of it, maybe that'll be good for your health. I don't know, it's a little weird, but I think that we can make it happen so that we don't take people's pleasure foods away from them and still give them, what they want, what they like in healthy forms. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'll be hanging around. Any other questions? If anybody needs anything, we're so happy that you guys are here. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the food. Thank you, Gabriel, for
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
We are minutes away from Whole Foods Market. If you walk into Whole Foods Market, how many products are Whole Foods except the produce?
So a lot of it, I would say a lot of it's whole food, but it's not whole plant food, unfortunately. But I don't know if I have to guess 70 to 80% of it's whole food, but the way you define, so maybe that's an important thing. How do you define a whole food? So a whole food is defined as you don't remove any healthful portion of it and you don't add in harmful things like salt, oil, and sugar. So a lot of those foods, including cans of beans and the produce, I think a lot of them are whole foods, but they still have apple pies with all this crazy additives and stuff in there. So I think it's more than half. But you're right, it needs to change. John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods, is 100% plant-based. Although a lot of people criticize him because the store still sells a lot of animal products, but that's a whole different topic. So, yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Looks like you're ready to go.
Yeah?
I just wanted to conversation. I'll go to
Whatever we can do.
if you're
I know what that is. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if there's any good thing I was going to do that too. I was going to do necessary, but then I got a lot of last concession, and so I brought it back. And you ever seen the first guy? And I was like, there's a lot of things in there. And they say, okay, we'll put your money, but you just look at it and want it. And so the longest of the fucking things. So consume some fish. However, the fish we get now is the mercury, PCBs, and all that, it does have saturated fat and cholesterol in it, so it's the same.
Thank you for working with me.
Right. Well, because that's like saying I need to eat a Snickers
having peanuts. Because you get peanuts in the Snickers bar, but you get all this other stuff that comes with it that you don't need. So when you get the fish, you make it easier.